Hi, thank you very much for being in this session. First of all, my name is Ix-chel Ruiz. I'm from Mexico, live in Switzerland. I'm a Java champion and I work for a company called J-Fro. And I have a surprise for you. So we have a raffle today, a Baby Yoda Lego set. So if you want to enter, use that URL or that QR code. And there you will find this video. And there won't be a lot of slides. Actually, I only have 3 slides, and you have seen already 2 of them. But the video will be there. So let's go back. After all those hours writing code, testing, documenting, and building, when we finally have our binaries, we tend to think this is a culmination of a long, iterative process. But in reality, this is not the end. Users need to find our artifacts with ease. So we need to support different operating systems and package managers. And we need to let them know when they can try a new version. All these tasks can be automated. Here is where JReleaser shines. So you can find this documentation at jreleaser.org. JReleaser works with different build tools, like for example, Gradle, Maven, and Ant. It also works in the CLI version. This is the one that we're going to see in the demo. Builds a release based on an external configuration file where we define all our model. Releases to different Git services, for example, GitHub, GitLab, Gitea. Creates different package managers, for example, JBank, Homebrew, Docker, and announce and shares announcements to different unannounced channels. So let's see the workflow. JReleaser has 3 principal actions. Git release, this one, packagers, and announce. In the Git release, we generate the changelog. It actually beautifies it. We will see that in the demo. Calculate the checksums. And it actually supports all the algorithms supports by Java. Signs with digital signatures like PGP and cosigned. Upload the binaries, checksums, and signatures to different targets like JFrog Artifactory and Amazon S3. And finally, creates the Git release, where it uploads the changelogs and the release assets, the binaries, the checksums, and the signatures. In the packagers, it prepares the files based on templates that you can modify to your convenience. Creates the packagers, for example, the Docker images. And finally, in the publish step, it uploads all the output generated in the previous step, the package, to the repositories of each package type. And announce is pretty straightforward. It generates and publishes the announcements. Let's see the integrations of JReleaser. So we can target in the log phase to Artifactory, S3, or generic HTTP or HTTP as targets. We can package and publish our packagers to SDK-man, JBank, Homebrew, Docker. We can also announce to different communication channels, for example, Telegram, Twitter, Mail, Gitter, Discord. So as you can see, JReleaser is very powerful and very flexible. And it actually makes our life quite easy. And I particularly like having the external model because when there we can define only once a lot of information that we need for the different services or for the package managers. So without any more details, we can go into the code. So this is a very simple repository in GitHub, and this is only a Hello World application. So as you can see, we don't have any releases already, and there is one important file that I want to show you even here, the JReleaser YAML file. This is the external configuration file where we define the model. So I already cloned this repository locally so we can see the same thing here. So first of all, we need to check what version of JReleaser we have. We can do that with SDKman. So here it will list all the different versions. So it's already in milestone 1. So yay, and we're going to use that one. And we can verify the version by running JReleaser version. Nice. So we have the version that we really want. So again, if we see the files of this project, we see that this is a Maven project. And now we can go into the JReleaser model. So if I show the contents of the JReleaser YAML file, we can see that at the beginning we have all the coordinates of the project. As I said, one of the things that I really like about JReleaser is that there is a lot of information that we can reuse for different purposes, for different publishers, packagers, or in an announcement. So it's actually really nice that we only defined it once and we can leverage it. In the release, we notice and we know that we're going to do a GitHub release where GitHub actually supports announcements. So we are configuring and setting that we want announcements. Remember when I mentioned the changelog, we can make it more beautiful? This is where that magic happens. So we have different categories, for example, features, issues, and tasks. And it's just going to be a kind of a replacement. If we follow the convention in our commit messages, this will look really, really nice. There is something that is not here reflected, but you can use is conventional commits. So we can even simplify this configuration file. Next is where we define what packages we want to create. So for example, when we run this demo, we will be creating the Homebrew formula. And we are also going to create the distributions where we define what are the binaries, the zip file and the targc files. And finally, we are defining our targets. Where do we want to upload our releases? And as you can see, I'm defining Artifactory, yay! And this is actually my personal free tier Artifactory repository. So perfect. Of course, we need to store our credentials somewhere, and they have to be secrets. So there is a file inside my my user configuration, personal user configuration. This is not the project configuration, where I store all my secrets. And believe me, they are there. I'm not going to show you my tokens nor anything like that. Okay, let's build the project. So, even as we said, this is generating the binaries, calculating. This is only generating the binaries. So we generate the zip file, the targc file. So let's run the JReleaser configuration. It fails. Why is it failing? because we're not defining, and it clearly says there, it's not defined the JRelease project version environment variable. We can actually define it inside our configuration file, but it's more interesting when you can export it as environment variable, because we can externalize it and it is easy to modify or in a part of our CI or CD workflow. So let's define it and let's run it again. So here, and this is actually something really interesting. As you can see, it's taking all the information from our model and also enriching it with our secrets. It's not displaying neither my tokens nor anything that it shouldn't be seen, even by myself or any agent. So we have where we configure the distributions, the packagers, the project information, and all the the checksums and the changelog, or at least the configuration that we created for the conventional commits and the replacement. So now we can run finally the full release. What is going to happen here? As I said, as we saw and defined in the configuration file, when we run this particular command, we will create the git release and the Homebrew formula. So let's do that. As we were discussing about the different important actions that your release creates, it's calculating the checksum, signing. If we define our digital signatures, it will do that. Here, it actually creates all this, calculated the checksums, and uploaded the artifacts, and prepared the distributions in 10 seconds, which is actually pretty good. So let's change to GitHub. Remember, and see, still 0 releases, no releases there. Now what happens when I reload the page? Yay, we see the release version 1.0.0, that one that we defined in our environment variable. And as we can see, the changelog looks fantastic, even has icons, so you can define whatever you want. Here in the contributors, even you can see who has contributed, or the commits, the author of the different commits. And we can list the assets, and as I said, we have the binaries and also the checksums. And remember that we were configuring in the model the joint discussions. So because GitHub support that, we have enabled this functionality, so we can start any discussions there. And now we can see how did we actually publish the artifacts to the artifact repository. So in this case, you can see, and we're refreshing. Before we didn't have anything. Couldn't double click on it and show the contents. We can see that we have our application version 1.0.0. Yay! So here we have our binaries, and of course we can see when they were created and where they were published, and the checksums with SHA 256, SHA 1, etc., etc. So this is, as you can see, super easy. The other thing that we were creating, remember when we defined, is as a package manager, the Homebrew formula. So there was at the beginning only 14 repositories, and now if I refresh, we have 15, yay! Being the latest repository, the Homebrew tab. Now, as you can see, the Homebrew tab was created by the JReleaser project, and there you can see the JReleaser bot. And it will actually create our formula. And this formula is based on the template that you can modify, and it's actually pointing out to the URL of our binary. So how cool is that? So do we trust that this Homebrew tab actually, this formula actually works? Don't trust me. Let's double check and verify. So, let's install the formula, my user, the tab, and the app. Let's click enter, yes. This will actually fetch the formula and it will use the URL that we defined, and it's installing, and wow, there it is. How cool is that? I have my Hello World is actually being served with Homebrew. I have all the advantages of Homebrew managing my version, and I'm making it so easy for users to find it, to use it. So we are going to delete everything because there's another functionality that I want to show you. This is doing it locally from our terminal, but that wouldn't be so, well, actually it's very useful, but we can automate this even more. So I'm deleting everything to have a fresh start. No releases, no published artifacts, no, even we will delete the repository of the Homebrew tab. And so it shouldn't be there anymore. And obviously this project is published in the GitHub repository, so guess what we're going to use? We are going to use GitHub Actions. So the same thing, almost the same thing, but from GitHub. We have defined in the different GitHub actions and the workflows. Here we have this step that's actually creating the magic, the checkout version 2, where we are invoking, will depend on the setup Java version 2 for Java version 11 of the distribution. Well, this is actually, we can define this. And here is where we are verifying and actually building our artifacts. And after building our artifacts, we actually are populating some GitHub environments. We are executing the JReleaser action, and where we passed some of these tokens and secrets. So this is really interesting. And yes, so this is our CLI release action, and let's make it work. Okay, while it's running, the output should be exactly the same. There shouldn't be any difference to what we achieved with our CLI. So right now we are setting up, invoking the build with Maven. We are creating the artifacts, and right now is the part where we are creating the checksums. We are generating also the changelog, and if we have defined the signatures, that will happen here too, and creating the Homebrew formula, actually doing also the Git release. And yay, everything is green so far. So let's go back to the repository, and again we have a release version 1 there, and it should look exactly the same as the one that we generated a few minutes ago. And again, we should see the Homebrew tab repository. And let's go back to that. Okay. Again, as we can see, this was created, all this publishing or uploading of this files was 43 seconds ago. And we need to double check that everything is published in our artifactory or in our binary repository. And as you can see, there they are. And we can see also what time they were created and all the information like the SHA, the checksums that we generated just now. So CLI, GitHub Actions, everything is possible. Everything should deliver us the same result. As we saw, it's easy to configure, it's very flexible, it's very powerful. This is why I'm so excited, because there are so many things here that we were doing in a very painful way. So really, this, for me, it is a great tool to use. And let me tell you that we are not, or this JReleaser is not the only project that is actually using JReleaser for generating their releases. There are several projects out there that you can find. For example, I always forget this one, the Casey Cuddle. I actually love it because it always reminds me of a bear. But anyway, sorry for that. And as you can see, the latest release was created with JReleaser, and they use a different convention for the assets, and there you have everything. So thank you very much for being with me, and I hope you can use JReleaser for your open source projects or any kind of projects actually. Thank you very much.